With me is my dearest pleasure. She is founder and CEO of her hair care brand, Soft Rose. I'd like you to meet Quani Brunett.
Hey y'all, how you doing?
All right, so please give us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, a little bit about me, and building Soft Rose. My hair story begins at 5 years old when my mother gave me a relaxer because she felt my hair was hard to manage. And um, I think that that really sparked a lot of things within myself. One, not knowing how to properly take care of my textured hair. Um, but in the same token, because my hair was relaxed, it then allowed me um, to be able to go to a hairstylist in a salon. And so, um, although I was wearing relaxers, I think, some of my first hairstylists, they really served as big sisters and big mentors and advisors. And they really, I think for me, I got to see how Black women interacted with one another. And so that was something that, I feel like that feeling is lost these days. So back in the day, at least where I'm my age and I'm from the Midwest, the hair salons were actual buildings and not just like a single suite, and you got to interact with people, and you had the guys loitering and selling different
Right.
products and things. And it was just an experience. And so I think I try to capture that essence um with building Soft Rose. Professionally, I went to school for physical therapy. So
Oh,
by trade, I am a doctor of physical therapy. So
wow.
um yeah, I was serving veterans. I was working at the VA hospital, and in 2018, I started an Instagram page called Beauty for Brown Skin. And it was really meant to, I was just kind of, there were brands that I was using and I felt like they weren't inclusive. And so I was really just passionate about advocating for inclusion, and that's how I got my career shift from working in physical therapy to working in beauty. And I think throughout my 6+ years of beauty experience, I really noticed, um, specifically in the textured hair space as it relates to prestige. I just really felt like there weren't a lot of culturally relevant, culturally forward brands that really spoke to me, in that space. And so that was really where I got serious about building Soft Rose.
Wow. That is quite surprising that you were a physical therapist and then you had that huge career shift into
Huge.
beauty.
Yep.
I would have
It's
never have guessed
random.
it.
I when I tell people it feels random, but I mean that's the story. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And what that's how the best stories start. You know, you saw that there was a clear need and you were you want to be part of the solution. Think that's amazing. And I would also like to mention that um when I saw how I first noticed you is through TikTok,
With
through social
TikTok.
media. And
Mhm.
I fell in love with the brand immediately because I saw myself. I saw someone who had my hair and I can speak for a lot of us, representation matters. And not to get super political, but especially in the United States, um, there is pushes such as the whole DEI thing. Um, but with all this being said, I really do, representation is so important. And it really does take one person to create that change. And we were talking a little bit before our interview. Um, if you don't see doors being open, you have to create your own door. And I
You have to
really
create
do.
them.
Yes, we have to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, we can be two steps forward, in terms of Um, so my question is, personally, I can go into, I won't say names, obviously, of these stores, but for textured hair, for our hair, um, is very, even though our dollar, the black dollar, is so, a lot of brands oversee us, but I can go into these stores and our shelf is so small, or, there's not so many products, that's designed for our hair. How will Soft Rose combat that problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, such a larger question, as it relates to retail space, retail shelving, and really the marketing cost and the money that is required to have a grand presence. In retail. But what I can promise you and what I can deliver are science forward proprietary formulas that are efficacious and have been tested rigorously across the tightest of hair textures. And so that's what Soft Rose can deliver, and that's what it is doing, and that's what it's designed to do. Um, and you know, I also want, textured hair. I feel like Black owned hair care founders are often put into boxes. And
Mm,
just because I'm a Black hair care founder, hair texture, um, hair and texture like has no race. And so
very true.
um while we will always center Black and brown people and people with textured hair, our products are efficacious for across all textures. And I think that's just something that's really important to me, because no one ever has a problem with, or Black people have no problem buying other hair brands. But then for Black owned hair brands, they hold them to a different standard. And so
Yes,
um,
I agree.
but yeah, so what we can deliver is that those products were formulated with chemists of color, and
Love
they
it.
products were tested in real time by cosmetologists. So I literally take my hair products to hairstylists and I say, do my hair. And
Yeah,
and so, I know it might sound silly, but a lot of
it
times
does
these
not.
larger corporations, they just make stuff, and
Hmm.
there really isn't a lot of nuance into why they're creating it. They just put some ingredients together. Oftentimes they're just white labeling products, so there's
Mm.
no custom formulation to it, and then they're just selling it to you. So
All right. And that is actually one of my questions. Going through, there is so much about hair chemistry, and there's literally what had mentioned, there's a science behind hair, and there are so many, I think a lot of people get caught up with like the hair types and like please correct me if I'm wrong, but like low porosity and high porosity,
uh-huh.
there's like everything. And especially, can you just tell us a little more about the science of textured hair?
Yes, certainly. So from a scientific standpoint, like research articles, um, what researchers have found is that the textured hair, it's the shape of it starts really from the hair follicle.
Mm.
And so when you look at the hair follicle of someone who's Caucasian versus someone who, in research terms, they use the term Afro textured hair.
Okay,
But when you look at the shape of the hair follicle, it's different. And so the hair follicle for textured hair, it's an elliptical shape, and that's what makes the hair come out curly versus if the hair follicle is just a straight circle, then straight hair just comes out of
right.
it.
Hmm.
And so when you look at the hair follicle, and then when you look at the spiral of textured hair, so every single human, all of our scalps produce sebum.
Yeah.
which helps to lubricate and moisturize the hair. And so if you just think about science and surface area, if the hair strand is straight, it's going to be easier for that sebum to travel down the hair shaft, the hair strand. Um, and because with textured hair, that surface area is largely increased, then it's much more challenging for that sebum to reach the hair. And so that's why scientifically and in real life experience,
Yes.
textured hair tends to be more drier,
Hmm.
tends to tangle easier, um, and experiences breakage at higher percentages than those with straight hair.
Now, especially for like wash days, and like being like, I know a lot of us, that's why we call it a wash day,
Right.
because our hair, like the whole detangling process,
Right.
and you
But
know,
that's a misperception. And that's
okay,
actually, it's a part of why we're building soft rolls.
yes,
Like wash day doesn't have to be wash day. It can be wash hour.
yes,
Um, and I really wanted to create products. So you said detangling and something, our formulation philosophy, it's really um anchored in moisture, strength, and
yes.
slip. And
Oh,
so we feel like slip is like not, it's not a secret sauce, but it's just something that we focus on that I think will add ease and shorten people's wash day and make the wash day much more a much more enjoyable experience. So like you said, back in the day, you used to pre-poo and you would deep
mm-hmm.
condition your hair overnight, and it'll take you all day to tangle and all day to style. And with our products, we really want to help you combine some of those steps and make it easier for you. But I think slip is something that's really important. So it's important for the hair. So think of your individual hair strands like hair fibers. And so
Okay,
if it's rough, if it's rough, then that's when it tangles. But you want
yes,
slip basically gives you some, it's an emollient, but it gives you glide so that when you're detangling your
glide,
hair,
yes,
styling your hair, it's a much more enjoyable process. So all of our products, whether styling or conditioners, etc., we wanted to focus on slip. So you'll even notice the texture of all of our products are very, silky. They're
yes,
lightweight,
soft.
because we really wanted to focus on hydrating your hair rather than just, oils and butters.
And like
Um,
treatments, just
yeah,
something to put on the surface, but not actually getting to the root.
yeah, yep. And
Oh,
penetrating the hair strand. So,
yes.
a common ingredient in skincare called hyaluronic acid.
Hmm.
We use that in our hair care, and I think that's
Interesting.
it's not an uncommon ingredient, but I
Yeah,
think it's something special for us to highlight because um, the same ways in which you would hydrate your skin, you would need to hydrate your hair. And
that is interesting because that's when I think of that ingredient, I'm thinking, I'm thinking of the hair or the skincare serums, I put on. I'm not thinking of putting
mhm,
it on my head.
mhm.
That is, I'm, oh my goodness, like I'm like enlightened
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you're
no,
right.
a funny story. A product idea came to me. I was wearing braids and my scalp was itchy, and I knew that oil wasn't going to make it better. And
Hmm.
so I was in my skincare drawer, and there was this water-based serum for skin, and it had a little dropper.
Right.
And I was like, and something was just like, put that on your scalp. And it was like a light bulb moment
Yeah, like a
to
aha.
do something that was water based over oils. Because like you're right, we're taught to oil our scalps and grease
Hmm.
our scalps.
Yes.
And yeah, and again, it was a skincare product, and I put it on my scalp, and I was like, yeah,
This feels better than like the oils and stuff that
yep,
honestly, again, like, oh my goodness, like you said, that's a light bulb moment. Um,
it was. Hmm.
so Actually, I'm gonna try this after because my I do need. I was going to oil my hair and redo my
But
twist.
there's nothing wrong with oils. There's nothing wrong with oils, but I just feel like especially people in the natural hair community, when I was in college and natural YouTube university, I was like
Yes.
buying straight coconut oil from the grocery aisle and putting it
Oh,
on my
okay,
hair.
that was me because
Yep,
it was everywhere.
yep.
But
And yeah.
and also, and I'm glad that you mentioned this because we have all had hair journeys.
Mm.
And and I like how you mentioned perm hair because that's how I used to be permed because for a long time. And then um I went to natural because, a whole bunch of things, but a lot of Black women can relate. Either we used to perm our hair or maybe some of us had did the big chop. We went natural. Um Black our hair, especially in our community as Black women, it's a huge part of us.
It's a huge part of
And
our identity.
mhm, it is. And yeah, it makes up who we are as, a little part of us as Black women. And we find ourselves through our hair, whether it can be through protective styles, it could be through braids, it could be, you know, through froze, twists, whatever.
Yep.
It is integral to us. So how does soft rose, you know, help us, love our natural hair? Like how does this fit into our hair journey?
Yeah, it really is going to foster and encourage um, self-expression through the versatility of our hair. And so, something that we say is that our products are designed to keep hair healthy through natural, protective, and heat styles. And so, for me, I never wore my hair one way. And so, it's like, why would my products only fit one type of hairstyling? And so that was
Amen.
another insight that I kind of back in the day, it's like back in the day, if you wanted to get a silk press, there was a very certain brand that you would use, and then versus like a brand you would use for your twist outs. And I knew that I wanted to create products that, whether I'm wearing two-strand twists one day or I might get a silk press the next week, those products can work across
Be
all of
versatile.
that. Even if you have braids, we have products for you. If you like to just wear your hair underneath wigs, we have products for you. And
Yes.
so I think is soft rose, it's encouraging softness and self-expression with ourselves and with our hair.
All right, I love that. And I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit about your inspirations because we were talking about, you know, the love of a black salon and, being, home. You can get your hair done. You can, catch up and have community. Um and I feel like, especially with your branding of
Mhm.
having that effect, I love it. Please tell us a little more about your inspirations.
Yeah, so as far as like branding and visual, um, I really first became inspired by looking at Black vintage hair ads.
Yes.
So those vintage hair ads really, those were kind of the first sources of inspiration. And um, because our name is kind of rooted in such a historical context, such as cornrows, um,
Yes.
I actually did more research on the history of hair salons and barbershops. And so to take it a step further, it's not just a salon because it's aesthetic.
Mhm.
It's actually just culturally, it's culturally and historically significant. And so hair salons and barbershops during the civil rights movements were places to gather and to organize. And they also taught financial and educational literacy in salons and
Mm.
barbershops. And so um, that's for us, it's more than just an aesthetic,
Right.
but yeah, and our first photo shoot, it's interesting where the purple comes from, but I had my one of my first ever hairstylists send me some hair pictures um from the 90s, and the just because the quality of the camera, the wall looked purple, and that's
Oh,
actually why we went with purple, and it's just kind of stuck with us. um, but yeah, I'm definitely inspired by the vintage hair ads, but also a lot of the imagery that we've done was really inspired by my time in being in the hair salon as a Black little
oh
girl.
yeah. And that's purple is such a rich color anyway. I love what you did with your brand because as a consumer, I would immediately, gravitate to it. And I also like to mention that, not even just about being aesthetics, but as Black people, you were right, especially during that time, this salons and barbershops were safe spaces for us. We can be with our people, we can get our hair done. And again, with like financial literacy, it's so culturally significant. And it ties in, when our identity, our hair and the Black identity, it's so important. And I absolutely love it. And um, I'm sure everyone else will love it too.
I
Um,
know, hopefully,
yes, actually, not
it's just
hopefully, we
well,
will. We are
yes,
already in
we
love.
will. I just think it's, even these conversations are interesting because we're still pre-launch, and so many people, because it's like we're so active on in social and community, and we don't even have a product out in the world yet, but I think that's because it's so much more than just hair product.
Yes.
But yeah, we're still pre-launch, so we're working really, really hard to get it to get it out into the world. So that's the
Well,
next step.
I would like to applaud you because you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Again, you reached me and, and you reach a millions of other people just via social media
Yeah.
and and the power of social media in
The
general
power of social. Yeah.
because and I'm not going to get I was a little upset with the TikTok ban that was banned for a few hours even
Yeah.
though it but again just the power of social media and having such a no matter what like insights or whatever but it's really just getting your product and the message because I'm going to connect it to what I said earlier. You can go into a you can go to Target, you can go to other stores, but you would still feel as a Black consumer underwhelmed or, oh my goodness, like I'm not um getting product out or like, I'm not looking for what I need. And I feel like, with your brand especially, you already solved that problem. You can go when you do launch, it's just quick. Like this is what I'm looking for. Um, so my question is, your products.
Mhm.
What does a typical lineup look like?
Yes. So our first collection will consist of um, a treatment mask um, product, and then the other two products will be styling. So I really wanted to focus on um, styling because, I felt like there's a lot of pre-poo, scalp, like there's so many like
Yeah.
pre products that I'm like, well, really with textured hair, it's the styling products that's on our hair a majority of the time. So our products will always focus on supporting or helping make styling better.
Yes. And again, music to my ears, I won't have to, look for this product that specializes in this or,
Yeah.
all these fancy there's a bunch of fancy titles in
Yep.
like the textured hair community. So again,
And
I
I
thank
can't
you.
share the names, but we even the our products, the some of the names, like we went a little bit old school, and I'm just excited to, just, because something we say is that we're reimagining these cultural beauty staples. And so you grew up with, Blue Magic hair grease and Luster's pink lotion, and just
Yep,
what does that
yep.
look like in modern times? So yeah, I'm excited.
So, and one of my last few questions
Yeah.
is, how does it feel being a Black female business owner? What does that look like in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think on one hand, it feels hard. I feel as if when I'm talking amongst my founder friends, every other week there's an article of another Black or BIPOC owned brand closing down.
Hmm.
And so it makes it feel challenging, but I think it's also cool, and it's resilient, and it's, I think for me, being the first to get a doctorate degree in my family,
Oh,
being one of the
congrats.
only Black physical therapists at the VA hospital, like I've tend to be in spaces that, I'm not the norm. And I find that being a Black founder, statistics show that, like, actually Black founders, like, they do more with their businesses than their white counterparts who get millions of dollars in
Mhm.
funding. And so I think it's almost like, it's a little universe of superpower. Like we're all super, we're all heroes in our own right, and what we're doing is groundbreaking. So I kind of see it in that light as well.
Yes. And again, please keep going. We need brands just like Soft Rose to continue because, again, you represent all of us. And please keep doing what you're doing. Um, and again, I want to emphasize that there's such a need for brands, Black brands, Black beauty brands, because I hate the word like oversaturation because nothing is oversaturated, but I think people say, oh, it's just like small, or they like to overlook us, and that's not true because we are such a huge demographic, but we constantly get passed.
Mhm.
And, you know, we have to keep fighting.
Yeah,
We
we
have
do.
to.
We do.
And I would like to round this up of what is the best advice that you've ever received?
I mean, that's a tough question, but a quote that something that I really love. Actually, there's two things. Uh, One, the quote, the saying, two things can be true at once. That's been really instrumental to me in my life, because sometimes I feel profound sadness even when good
Mm,
things are happening. And it took a good college friend of mine saying, well, Quani, two things can be true at once, and two emotions can be held at in the same time. And so that's like a life advice that, like, I like to share often. And then the other thing is, to not get too high with the highs, and to not get too low with the lows.
amen.
Um, and so those are just two little, like, nuggets that I often repeat to myself when life is happening.
All right. I love those quotes. I honestly keep pushing through.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for this opportunity, and I'm
Yes.
excited for the launch of Brown Orchid. And yeah,
Yes.
can't wait to keep it going. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kwani. I am looking forward to Soft Rose and the launch. All right. Bye-bye.